On this podcast, an 80s icon with a string of hits, plus a writer and producer of many well-known songs. Chatting to Nigel Clarkson, it's Nik Kershaw.
Right, on the Sands Showbiz Podcast, we're lucky enough to be talking to Nik Kershaw. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Nigel. How's it going?
I'm fine, thank you very much. You're going to be a busy guy in October with your tour coming up. Before we get into that, though, can we go back a little bit? Can we rewind so our listeners can find out a little bit more about how you got started in the music business?
So, my parents are both quite musical, but I kind of, like most kids, I didn't want to do anything to do with what my parents did. So
yeah,
it wasn't until I was sort of mid-teens, sort of 14 or 15, that I kind of really engaged in music and tried to find my own way with it, and picked up a guitar and started learning that. Left halfway through my A levels because I had school bands and stuff, and I had my own little band I used to rehearse with, and I thought, well, I'm going to get that together. I'm going to buy a van, and we're just going to get off and rule the world. And then I spent the next 3 years working in an unemployment benefit office in Ipswich,
right,
and rehearsing this band. Then I got kind of headhunted by a local professional band who used to play sort of jazz fusion gigs, but also used to play functions and weddings, bar mitzvahs, and that kind of stuff. So I did that for 3 years, and then that band split up, and then I made some demos, started writing, and that's when I really started writing.
Yeah,
made some demos. Hoiked them around record companies, got nowhere. Last resort, put an advert in Melody Maker for management, and I got a guy calling himself Mickey Modern, who managed 9 Below Zero, and he said, "Look, I can, I've done this with 9 Below Zero in 2 years. What do you reckon?" So I kind of signed a deal with him, and he got me a record deal with MCA Records.
Was that the turning point then when you got in touch with Mickey?
I think, yeah, absolutely. I think it really was the last resort. I thought I didn't know what to do. I was kind of, I was on the dole, and I was, really struggling. And you get so many rejection slips, you kind of think to yourself, well, maybe I'm just no good. This is, then maybe they're right. I've got nothing that anybody wants to have anything to do with or hear. And he saw something, and he said, "Look, no, I think this is really good. Let's go and see if we can get a deal together."
Don't you feel you make your own luck along the way, don't you, Nick? I find that, by perseverance, you do open a door eventually, don't you, if you keep going for it?
You do, yeah. But I mean, but that I was close to the point of thinking that, oh, maybe I'm just sort of flogging a dead horse here. So you just it really was. You say you make your own luck, but it was a huge luck that Mickey saw that advert, and because in the back of Melody Maker, a music magazine paper came out every week, but in the back you could buy loon pants, batwing shirts, and there were always adverts for bass player wanted or something like this, and I just that one in management wanted. Yeah. He just happened to be reading it,
So it was really, how tough was it in the 80s? Because I remember it was very competitive, wasn't it, in the 80s? Because the 80s is my decade. I don't know, it's probably your decade, is it? The most favorite decade of your musical career and that. But it was quite competitive. How did you get on in the early 80s? Was it really tough to get your foot in the door?
Well, and once the record deal came in, it was kind of, it all happened ridiculously like clockwork. It just, everything worked, everything went to plan, everything I touched turned to gold. It was just extraordinary because once we'd identified the producer, Peter Collins, and we started recording, there was no doubt in my mind that it was going to happen. And then and that sounds arrogant now, but it's not until you look back and realize that there were loads of people in my position, equally talented, then it just didn't happen for.
Yeah.
So I don't remember. Competitive's not a word I'd think, because I wasn't competing against other artists. I don't think. I mean, they were all competing for the same record deals, but once I got the deal, you know, and you're bringing records out, and I guess you are competing. Then you're competing to get on the playlists of radio stations, and then you're competing to get on top of the pops. And then you're competing, but I'm not the one doing the competing. It's like radio pluggers and TV pluggers doing
Yeah.
that for me.
Yeah. MTV was a bit of a turning point though for you, wasn't it? Because that was just coming out. I remember it well in the nightclubs in the like mid 80s. We were playing it on the screens in the nightclubs because it was the biggest thing then at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the only thing I think at the time, and then VHS came. Yeah, it was huge. We didn't realize it at the time, I don't think. I mean, for me, making videos was a kind of a thing you just had to do, and I just always remember being horribly. I always managed to do it, shoot my videos in the winter, somewhere really cold, damp, and horrible. Most of my videos were bar one were that. So it was always really hard work making these videos, and a director would say to you, "Well, it's going to be a 1 day shoot," and I thought, "Oh, that's great. What, 8 hours? What's that? What's that going to be?" No, 1 day, 24 hours is what he means.
Yeah.
You're sort of
Yeah.
there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock the next morning.
Wow.
They were quite brutal, but yeah, looking back, I mean, hugely influential. MTV was, and it just to get those videos out to people. I mean, they just didn't just get to hear you on the radio; they got to see you doing whatever you were doing.
Yeah. So 84 was when it started really rolling out for you, wasn't it? When you started it in the big time, really.
Yeah, 80. The first single was "I Won't Let the Sun Go Down" in 83.
Yeah.
The first time it was released, and it kind of wasn't a hit, but it got top 50, I think, and it sort of introduced me to the business and radio people and whatever.
Yeah.
But the first hit was, yeah, Wouldn't It Be Good, in the January of 84.
Yeah. So I remember that one so well. Have you got a favorite out of them all? Out of the ones that charted?
I think it probably is that one because it's the one song, because over the years you get bored with playing them live the same way all the time. You know, I think every artist goes through this, and you come out the other side. But you have a period of time when you think, well, I'm going to change. I'm going to change the songs. We're going to do different instrumentation, different arrangements,
Yeah.
just to make them interesting. Yeah, but all you're doing is making them more interesting to you. You're not making them more interesting than anybody else, because they just want to hear the record. And you figure that out eventually and think, oh, okay. And then you go back, and it goes full circle. But the one song I never did it to was Wouldn't It Be Good? Because it was just always, it just works. There's no
Yeah.
other way. But you just will go on stage, and it's just, I still get a buzz playing those first few chords.
Yeah. Belting song you always do within 5 seconds. You've got it, haven't you,
Yeah.
straight away? I mean, you've written a lot of songs as well for a lot of artists. You've been involved with loads of big names in the music business. And Chesney Hawkes as well always springs to mind, the one and only. That song is just an epic song. It still is today, isn't it?
Yeah, again, that was just being in the right place at the right time again. It was because I went at the end of the 90s. I decided I was going to stop performing and just write and produce for other people.
Yeah.
And I did that for about 10 years. But the first one out of the bag was the one and only. But it came that I'm always suspicious of things that come too easily, and that really was quite an easy song to write, so I didn't really give it a second thought, and just stuck it on the shelf for a couple of years.
I often find that, Nick, that a lot of people I've interviewed have said some of the best songs have just come really quickly.
Yeah.
And they just seem to have sprung on them for a moment, and they've written a song really quick. And then those that they've deliberated on a long time don't seem to sometimes happen.
I think that's the rule of thumb. I think that, and I think I'm thinking back to most of my hits. Yeah, they all came. They just turned up, in my head. They went, there it is.
Oh, it's good. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. I wish it happened now.
Well, you never know, do you? Well, what do you prefer? Do you actually prefer performing, or do you prefer writing the songs?
I do a lot more performing now than I do writing, because it's kind of you lose the ability to surprise yourself when you're writing, and you kind of, I find myself repeating myself a lot, and and playing live is the one place you can repeat yourself, because it's not like being a stand-up comedian. People don't want to hear the same jokes every time. But people do want to hear the same songs, and it's amazing. So yeah, but I enjoy both. I'm gonna do when the juices are flowing and I'm in the middle of writing something and I can actually get to the end of the day and look and play something back to myself and think, wow, you yeah, that's great, and that's a really satisfying thing. And plus, in the studio is a place. I'm a bit of a control freak, and I'm in control in the studio. And if you get something wrong, you can do it again. You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Live, it's very visceral and in the moment, and it's a completely different experience. And it's one that used to terrify me, um, back in the day, and I got used to get very nervous, and I used to just look. I was just trying to getting through the gigs was the important thing, just getting to the end, you know,
Yeah.
and a great sense of satisfaction once you've done it. But I probably didn't enjoy the shows as much as I should have done. But nowadays, I've got time to just sort of, you know, take it all in and
Yeah.
enjoy the audience and
Yeah. Because
enjoy.
you did Live Aid, of course. I mean, that would be nerve wracking, wouldn't it? I mean,
Yeah, that was.
would that be the most nervous point you've ever been?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I remember standing at the on the edge of the stage, being introduced and waiting to go on. And I don't know, some external force got me on stage because I didn't go on of my own volition. I'm sure I didn't. But my legs started moving, and then I was walking on stage and just praying to God that some of my equipment worked.
Yeah.
Um, because we didn't have any kind of sound check or line check. It was just like quick.
Wow.
People were changing over, you know, literally really quick change, and the stage was supposed to revolve. And I found out afterwards that the stage was being pushed around manually because the motors broke.
Amazing.
So there's loads of things going wrong, left, right, and centre. Things falling to bits, but most of which I was blissfully unaware of at the time. But yeah, it was very nerve wracking. But what a, yeah, real privilege to have been there and to have some stories to tell. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So you taught yourself all these instruments that you play as well, didn't you? Self-taught.
Well, yeah, but I'm a guitarist.
Yeah.
That's what I can't claim to be a keyboard player in any shape or form. My I can get my computer to play keyboards.
Right.
And I can, you know, I can thrash about on the drum kit out of time. But I'm not a drummer. So yeah, I'm a guitar player. That's the only instrument I'd claim to actually have um any kind of talent in.
Yeah. That's your favorite. That's what you were brought up on a guitar, was it basically?
Yeah,
It
there
was
was always one sat in the corner at home. There was a Spanish guitar, which is all in nylon strung guitar that someone had painted white and put steel strings on it, so it's almost impossible to play. And
right.
that was the first guitar. And then I remember my dad taking me to a place called Jock O'Donnell's in Ipswich, which is the only music shop in Ipswich, and buying me my first electric guitar, which is kind of it suddenly occurred to me when I got home that it's not an electric guitar unless you've got something to plug it into. And I didn't. I used to plug it into the. We had a radiogram, yeah, or a stereogram. We had it. Well, that wasn't stereo; it was mono. But it was a record player that plugged into the radio. So
Yeah.
then that was the amplifier. So I managed to figure out a way of plugging my guitar into the radio.
Yeah. Sounds very familiar. Sounds similar to myself. I was 15 and my dad went and bought me some double decks, and that what's got me into doing
Yeah,
DJing. It was his fault.
yeah. No, I just blame the parents. I would.
9 albums to date. That's some going, isn't it?
I'm quite it's quite a slow process nowadays. Obviously, it's just. I mean, it's been 8 years between the last two albums. It was 2012 to 2020. So yeah, I take my time trying to get it right. Very proud of every one of them. That's the point. I've done kind of. I'm probably not as spontaneous as I should be, and I should be able to just sit in front of a you know
Yeah.
microphone and just bash songs out and just kind of um and worry about whether they're any good later. But
Yeah.
I don't do that. It goes through a whole kind of quality control process that kind of wheels out about 75% of all the work I do. So you only get to hear the 25%.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm a bit too picky. I don't know, but yeah, hopefully there's more. There's more in the can somewhere.
Yeah. So it's just a natural talent writing these songs, then, is it?
Yeah, it's hard work as well, and I mean, most of the songwriting process is a process of making decisions, really, because
Mm,
a lot of people can have the ideas, but just putting them together and deciding what is and isn't good. I
yeah.
think that's the difficult thing. So you're your own um quality control. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's down to the decisions at the end of the day, isn't it? I think most things are like that, aren't they, in life, really?
Yeah, and it can be very dependent on how you're feeling at the time. It can be if in a bit of a low mood, everything that comes into your head is rubbish.
All the people I know that are creative,
Hmm.
they're quite moody people in some ways, aren't they? One day they're really good, and then the next day, it's rubbish. That.
That's why I always if I write a song and I'll put a version of it down quickly and then I'll forget about it for about 3 months and then I'll pick a day when I'm feeling reasonably good about myself and I'll sit down and I'll play some of the stuff that I've written ages ago and just and listen to it and
Yeah.
just let it wash over me and think that's the point at which you can go, wow, that's actually quite good, or
Yeah.
there's nothing in that. I've been that one,
Yeah.
you know.
Definitely.
But at least you're objective about it. If you the trouble is when you're writing a song, you're so wrapped up in it, it's really difficult to tell whether it's any good or not.
Yeah. So you're looking forward to your 12 dates coming up in the UK. Then that's going to be a great tour for you.
Yeah, and we're doing the same thing in Europe as well, and that's good. That's going to be great. I am. It's gonna be odd playing some of those songs again because I haven't, a lot of them I haven't played since the mid '80s. Yeah, I've got some work to do. I've got to go and learn some songs.
I was looking at the tours though. I mean, the dates in the tour. You've done like 12 dates in a fortnight. That's pushing quite a lot of work there, isn't it?
Well, the last tour I did a tour last year, which is just a sort of general tour of just of whatever, a few hits and just anything I've played, written in the last 40 years. Um, that was 11 shows in 11 days. So, and that was, and I remember my tour manager saying to me at the time, I said, "Are you sure about this?" Because because the one thing is obviously that you worry about is your voice holding up.
Yeah.
But since I mean, since I've used in-ear monitors and I'm not shouting over drummers and
Yeah.
I don't sing very loud. I sing quite gently, um, and close to the mic. So and I can hear myself really well. So I'm not trying to over stretch my voice or push my voice at any given point.
Yeah.
As long as I stay sort of virus free, I'm usually pretty good. It's all right. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have a day off. I must
Yeah.
admit,
You're
every
sort of working your voice there, aren't you, Nick? I know that when I put my headphones on a radio studio, I have it on quite loud, actually, probably far too loud. But I work my voice then because I'm not shouting like yourself. Like you
yeah,
said, you don't shout. And
yeah.
that's the same for me. A lot of people, no idea with microphone technique when I watch it sometimes.
In
But
fact,
you must,
in fact, the thing that trashes the voice most on tour is if you decide you're going to go into a noisy bar after the show or a club. Always, and we don't go to clubs anymore. That would be, ridiculous at 66. But yeah, if you go in a noisy bar or a party or just where there's loads of people about and you find yourself shouting at each other because you can't hear it, then that's when you really do your voice in.
yeah, definitely. So it all starts at Lincoln then. You're looking forward to the first day and you'll be
Yep.
off from Lincoln. Do you have a band that goes around with you? Have you got a band that's been with you for a long time or something?
Most of the band been with me for the while. The longest serving member is Paul, the bass player. He's been with me since 1999, as have some of my crew as well. Um, but the other guys, Bob and Adam, have been with me. The drummer and the guitar player have been with me since sort of 2006, possibly. Yeah,
Yeah.
2006. I think. And the keyboard player's been with me for about 5 years. Yeah, they're a really great bunch as well. We have a good old laugh and we get on, and which is as important as anything, really.
Yeah,
Especially if
definitely.
locked on a sleeper bus with them for 2 weeks. You need to be able to get on.
Yeah. So what we'll do, we'll put all the links on the podcast below, so people can get tickets online.
But all the links are on my website, so you could just point people to nikkershaw.net, and then all the links are there for people to buy the tickets.
Right, we'll do that. Hey, it's been great chatting to you anyway. I wish you all the very best for the forthcoming tour.
Thank you.
And then you'll be finished for Christmas, will you?
Just about, yeah. I'm gonna have to. I've got a little break in November, so I'm gonna have to get my Christmas shopping done then, I think.
Anyway, nice to catch up with you. I wish you all the best for 2024, and maybe we'll speak again in about a year's time, find out what you're getting up to.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, man.
Okay, cheers, Nik.
See you again. Cheers.
Bye.